Do you want to learn how to make a girl come with your fingers, your dick, your tongue? It might take a little trial and error, but I promise it is well worth the effort for both of you. Hi, I'm Imi. This is Andy, my boyfriend's channel. We date and sleep with women together. We explore sex, BDSM, kink, and self-development. We record videos together on this channel too, talking about all of those topics, sharing everything that we've learned over the years so that you can deeper your sex and pleasure, intimacy, and most importantly, enjoy life a little bit more each day. So full disclaimer, this isn't a video where I'm going to say, make any girl come in 10 seconds. Unfortunately, as sexy as that might sound, that's not really realistic for 95% of women. And yes, I've just pulled that stat out of my ass. But I'm saying that not to kill your dreams, but to make you feel a little bit better if men, you're finding it a little bit difficult to make any of your intimate partners come. And for women especially, and I've been there too, not feeling like there's something wrong with you if it is difficult to orgasm. It took me years to figure out my own body so that I could make myself come without the help of toys, and just as long to figure out how to actually orgasm with a partner. Andy and I have been with all different sorts of women whose bodies are also different and different things turn them on and make them come. It's very rare that any two girls are the same. We've been with girls who can only come with penetrative sex, and I can't come through sex at all. A friend of mine could only come when a guy was completely still and hard inside of her. He couldn't move, she didn't touch herself, and if he stayed there long enough, she would come. I thought that one was fascinating. And we've been with a girl who could come in less than 30 seconds from basically anything, and she could come over and over and over again with almost no work. It felt like she was lying at some point, but we checked and she definitely wasn't. And I was only a teensy bit jealous. But the point that I'm making is that every girl is different and it is not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. It'll take some exploring, and that is half of the fun of it all. So step 1, take a look at any potential desensitization. And what I mean by that. For me personally, for many years, I was watching a lot of hardcore porn. I was only using sex toys and vibrators to help me come, which meant that during normal sex, it was almost impossible for me to have an orgasm because I was so used to using tools that were nothing like sex. Vibrators and sex toys can move 100 times faster than any person would for 10 times longer than any person could. And I think that at this point, every man and his dog knows that porn is also not a realistic depiction of sex. I know my partner Andy has his own relationship with porn, and when he watches too much, he often finds it a lot harder to be present during sex and finds it a lot harder to derive much pleasure from normal sex. So taking a break from porn and from using sex toys, which then meant from orgasming altogether, made a huge difference in helping me become more sensitized, get more pleasure out of sex, and eventually learn how to come with a partner. It felt like recalibrating my body's sexuality and pleasure and getting back in touch with what made me horny once I removed all of the other things that I'd been relying on as a crutch. And for me at the start, that was really hard, but ultimately what I reminded myself was that this was so that I could have deeper pleasure, deeper intimacy, connect more with my partner. It was serving a bigger purpose. And once you relax into it and stop resisting, the horniness and that energy that's kind of building up inside of you can be a really fun, exciting thing to explore. Disclaimer though, if you are simply wanting to learn how to come with a partner there and you don't mind if you use sex toys, would highly recommend. Often people can have mental hurdles of just being able to orgasm in front of a partner because there's mental blocks there, anxieties, nervousness, and all of those things going on inside of your head can actually make it more difficult to come. So in those cases where you don't mind using toys, vibrators, sex toys can be a really easy way to speed things along. I would highly recommend the Doxy and the Satisfyer Pro 2, which will also be linked to in the description. But if you want to do it the old-fashioned way with hands, dick, tongue, keep listening. Step 2, get honest about what turns you on. Especially more recently, the key for Andy and I figuring out what actually makes me come the easiest was being really real, being honest and exploring what are my biggest turn-ons. Because very obviously, the more horny you are, the more turned on you are, the easier it is to come. There were times in the past we were kind of just trying to power through it and Andy would go down on me and I'd just be lying back in bed. He'd go down on me for literal hours. And there were a few occasions where it worked eventually, but it took a really, really, really long time because ultimately that wasn't the position, the dynamic, the scenario that turned me on the most. I was laying back, my mind would wander, I would put pressure on myself to come, and it made it more difficult. And so what actually turns me on is the dynamic of dominance and submission. And I really like getting face fucked. That's the porn that I've gone to get me the most turned on the most quickly for years. So acknowledging that and recognizing that and actually trying to create a scenario in which I was going to be the most turned on possible meant it became easier and easier for me to come without toys. It became easier for Andy to make me come, and so the position that we found works the most is 69ing. I still get to give a blowjob, I get to get face fucked, and Andy gets to go down on me. And now it is the easiest position to make me come. So have a conversation with whoever your intimate partner might be. Ask them what gets them going, what turns them on, what dynamics do they like? Do they like feeling submissive? Do they like feeling dominant? Do they like to be called certain names? Do they like particular role plays? Is there a certain outfit that makes them feel really sexy and gets them going? Or are there certain sexual positions that turn them on more? I'd also ask a few questions about how your partner masturbates. Do they use porn? What sort of porn are they looking at? Do they use their fingers? Do they use toys? Is it penetrative? Is it focused on their clit? If it is focused on their clit, what sort of motions are they using with their hands? Are they going back and forth in a straight line? Are they going in circles? Clockwise, anti-clockwise? A lot of these things can make a huge difference because, as I said, the key to unlocking each woman's individual pleasure can be so unique, and the smallest changes can make a huge difference into learning how to make her come. And sometimes she might not have the answers to these questions. Maybe she hasn't gone particularly deep on her sexuality. Maybe she's always struggled to come and struggles to make herself come. I know that for me, for years, I couldn't make myself come with my fingers. And even now, it's something that I struggle with. I have to watch porn when I do it, and it takes me a really long time. So part of this process might be a trial and error where you're exploring this together. Maybe in the middle of your sex, you have to break it down and slow down and say, does this feel good? Does that feel good? Does it feel better when I'm thrusting in this fast, or does it feel better when I'm thrusting in a little bit slower or more shallow or more deep? It again really depends on the individual. That's the beautiful thing about it, is that you can have fun exploring and finding out what each person likes. Such a cliche, but it is not about the destination, it is about the journey. And step number 3, give it time, keep trying, but also don't try too hard. Again, and this is honestly probably more the philosophy around it, but as much as orgasms aren't this mystical thing, they can be a little bit difficult to achieve, and some bodies can reach orgasm a little bit easier than others. So don't feel sad if you can't get there. Some of my favorite sexual experiences haven't involved an orgasm at all. And obviously, having one is amazing. That's why you're here. That's why you're watching this video. So don't lose hope. Just keep trying and enjoy the process of trying. A lot of the time, what can actually be a blockage to having an orgasm with a partner is the pressure that you put on yourself, that expectation of like, I need to come, why aren't I coming? Oh my God, what's wrong with me? And all of those things going on in your head, as I said before, can be one of the biggest blockages to actually coming. So if you are still having difficulty, if you've done lots of focus on what's actually bringing physical pleasure, it may be a mental thing. So sometimes taking the pressure off the orgasm and just saying, I want to give my partner as much pleasure as possible. And if they don't come, that's totally fine. We don't care. We are focused on having a good time, having fun and feeling good. And there's been plenty of time in my personal experience with other women that as soon as you say, it's fine if you don't come, that's when the orgasm comes the easiest. Orgasms are a beautiful, delicious, sweet, juicy cherry on top. But again, orgasms are not the be all and end all. I'll give 2 more little bonus tips. Try giving her an orgasm when she's ovulating. So when she's the most fertile, that's going to be roughly 14 days before her period starts. You probably need to ask her. Most women have like a little period tracker. But when you're the most fertile, your body, your clit, female genitalia is the most sensitive. And it actually makes a huge difference to how horny you are, which of course in turn makes it easier to come. So line it up in the calendar, make a day out of it, and it might make a difference. And second little bonus tip for anyone that might be struggling to make a girl come, as a general rule, again, I've prattled on about how no 2 bodies are the same, but for the most part, the clitoris is the most sensitive part of a woman's genitalia. That's above her opening, and it's just a little nub on top, and that's the area that has the most nerve endings, that generally speaking is going to be the most sensitive. So focusing your attention there is probably going to be the easiest way to make her come. So I hope that helped you out a little bit. I hope you may have learned something, or I gave you some ideas that you might want to try. And at the end of the day, I hope you go out there and have a hell of a lot of fun.